Hey everyone, it is so very good to see you. It is very cold here in the Midwest today, way too cold for November, but we're all inside hopefully, and we are going to learn today about writing and publishing a book for business owners. You guys are a very ardent bunch. There's been a lot of signups in the last 24 hours, probably the most signups I have seen occur in one day ever. So I hope to give you lots of value today. It is cold in Florida today. Yeah, it is. It's chilly. It's chilly across the Midwest. I know it's cold in Florida. And cold in Florida is anything pretty much below 50. So it's good to see everybody. Please let us know where you are from and what is your idea for a book. If I know this is specifically for business owners, I've actually modified this a little bit because I did a generic one around business, around writing and publishing a book for generally for people all across the board. But if you're a business owner and you're wanting to write a book, I cannot think of a better way to demonstrate your authority by being an author, right? Root word of authority is author. So about you projecting your authority in whatever it is that you do. This is really, I honestly, I just can't think of a better way, which is also why I have written 8 books. I'm working on my 9th, and it demonstrates my authority in this certain area around business ownership and business systems and business leadership and lead generation and sales and operations and accounting and all these different things. So for those of you who are joining me today, let's see where you guys are from. It's snowing in Massachusetts. Yeah, we sent the snow over to you. So I hope you don't mind, Christopher, but we were done with it. we got quite a bit of snow, actually. We have a blue heeler, and our 3-year-old little girl was absolutely, she had the best time out in the snow for the first time. This first snowfall of the year, she and the blue heeler out back were just we're really enjoying a good time. Selma, you're from Texas. Thanks for joining. It's cold in South Carolina, Sandra. Very, I'll bet it is. Yeah. Tennessee, April, welcome. And Vancouver, Canada, Gabriella, welcome here. You're like, snow. It's been snowing since August. Yeah, probably. Montreal, Canada, same thing. I get it. Maryland, you're writing a children's book. Excellent. So this is going to be this just Zanaya, I know you're maybe writing a children's book, which is totally fine. Maybe it doesn't have a business context, which is again totally fine. Everything in here is translatable, but I am going to be directing a few things around business owners. So again, not that it's irrelevant for you, but we are going to be talking about some business aspects of the book because let's face it, if you're writing this book, I'm assuming you want to get it in the hands of more people than just your immediate relatives. I don't know, maybe, I'm assuming. So this is, you have to look at this from a business context. I've got people from North Carolina. Thank you, Tyrese. Glad you could join us. It's windy and rainy in Southampton, UK. Okay. Bavika, I hope you're staying good and warm. I've got people from Romania. Oh, hello, Isabella. Glad you can join us. Susan from NYC. NYC's been on the news quite a bit lately, Susan. So I hope you're not caught up in any of that political whirlwind. Yeah, what is your idea for a book? That's what I'm really looking for. Is I want to try a collection of short stories. Very good. Wisconsin science fiction. Thank you, Jason. Sandy from DC, and I'm Brian from New Jersey. Very good. All right, so we're going to get right to this. There's a lot of information that I'm going to pass along here. Couple of things, okay? Sorry, my nose is running all of a sudden. Talking about all this cold weather. So, what I want to talk to you first and foremost, okay, a couple of housekeeping items. Number 1, please don't multitask. Please try to stay dialed into this. It's an hour. It's going to go quick. And on the other side of this, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of information. Before you ask, yes, you will be sent the replay. It will be sent to your email. So I'm just letting you know, keep an eye out. There'll be one for that comes from Eventbrite, and we're going to put another one out there that's going to come from YouTube. So just letting you know, look for the extension markdolfina.com. It will absolutely, I'm sure, positively land in your spam folder because Gmail hates me, Yahoo hates me. I don't know what I ever did to them, but they do not like my email. So it always winds up in spam. So just keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be sending those things out in probably the next day or so. As soon as I can get this uploaded and get it over to you, you guys will get that. So that's a couple things. The other thing is I do have a free course which will go through a lot of what I'm talking about today. So it's totally free. All you got to do is plug in your email address. I'm going to show you how to get that at the end. But for right now, just stay dialed in. Do not multitask. Your TikTok videos will be waiting for you at the end. Again, you'll get the replay afterwards. But the other thing is I do have a paid course, right? And the paid course is just a few bucks. But if you really want to take it to the next level, I'm going to show you all the different things. I'm actually going to show you what the inside of the course looks like. It's just a few dollars. It doesn't cost, we're not talking $100. It's less than that. So it's if you really are interested in really taking it to the next level and you're really going to next level your thing, it's just a few dollars investment. So I just want to be clear on that, not trying to bait and switch. I just want to let you know that we're going to be covering a lot of information today. And I am going to be approaching this from a business owner's perspective. So I know several of you, you're talking about wanting to write science fiction and children's books and things like that. Totally fine. This probably 85 to 90% of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be relevant for you, because I am going to be talking about the nuances of getting your stuff promoted or put out there and published and so forth. So this is just want to make sure that you guys know, what it is that we're going through today. All right. So as we're talking through this, I know a lot of people are thinking like, man, who am I to write a book? I don't know how to write a book. Where do I start writing a book? I'm afraid of criticism. Anybody afraid of that or afraid of ridicule? Where do I start? All these different things, all related to nothing short of head trash. It's all head trash. I don't want you thinking that it's whatever you have as an art form has already been done, so there's no reason for me to do it. Set that garbage out on the curb where it belongs, because I'm telling you, I had the same thoughts, but I'm letting you know, especially when I was writing my first book, and it's a good book. It was called The Time Wealthy Investor. Now I've only written business books, but or fables with a business context. But the thing was, I was always in my head and letting stuff rent space in my head around, well, that's already been done or whatever. Look, it's never been done in your voice. So please just set that stuff aside. Someone probably needs to hear your story. Even if you got your book in the hands of 10, 20, or 100 people, think of those 10, 20, or 100 people whose lives would be changed because you didn't play small. So please set that stuff aside. Do not let that stuff rent any more space in your head. That is just be done with it. Let's talk about the agenda. Today, we're going to talk about the why, things that you ever need to, before you ever lay pen to paper, it's important that you understand your why. It's also understand the where. And I'm going to get into it's a little bit of granularity on where to actually write, but the other wheres that you need to consider. Okay. So the writing, the things for when you start writing, as well as what to do along the way. So I just want you to think about all the different nuances of this about actual writing. Now, I'm not going to get into like a writing clinic. That's not what this is. This is actually about writing and publishing. So the physical act of writing, whether you put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, whatever it is, we're going to talk about that stuff. So we're not going to be getting into writing style on this. That's not really what I do, but I am going to talk about the granularity of actually writing and actually publishing, getting your book, in the realm of the published works. So the most important thing, again, you don't have to do this, but you're not going to get the results you want if you don't do this one thing. That's the fourth agenda item. And then of course we'll talk about publishing and then other resources. So this is the pile of all the books that I have written. I'm not sure what's the measurement of a bunch of books that you've written? Pile? I don't know. We'll go with pile. So here's my pile of books. The top left there is The Time Wealthy Investor. That was my very first book. If you look across the back, you'll see The Judge, and there was a Time Wealthy Investor 2.0. My fourth book was The Time Wealthy Advantage, and then the 4 little guides across the bottom. So just so you know, I've written 3 different books that were about 300 pages. That second book that I wrote was a book that is about 90 pages. That was written as a fable. Those 4 guides up front are all about 40 to 45 pages. I have written all sorts of different books. So I'm just letting you know, and each one of these books serves a different purpose. So again, this is specifically for business owners, but the thing is, if you are writing and you're going to come up with different ideas for other books, start creating different files for different books as you're coming up with these different ideas. The books that I wrote, around the Time Wealthy Investor, those are real estate investor books, right? The Judge, I was traveling a lot and I didn't really, I needed a book as a giveaway offer that I could give away. And it wasn't like my seminal capstone work, but so I could give away The Judge. And The Judge reads very quick. It's written in big font. It's a story. It's a fun story. And at the end, it's a feel good story too, but it does give lessons along the way. So the Time Wealthy Advantage, again, another seminal work as I was transitioning out of my real estate coaching space and into more as that of a consultant, more as a strategist. So each one of these books served a purpose for me. Okay. So this is something I'm going to be talking about in terms of the why. And much of what I'm going to be talking about today is related to the Time Wealthy Advantage, which is my last book. Now, again, these are all available on Amazon. You can find them all on Amazon, except the first one. That's now out of print because I have another, the second edition, which was the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0. I published that separately. So I took the first one out of print, but they're all available, right? The point that I'm trying to make here is that, as I did all these things, I got better and better and better at them. The first one is always the roughest. But the main thing is I got that first one out of the way, and it took me almost 2 years to get that thing done. This last one took me probably about 2 years, maybe not quite that long, maybe about 18 months from beginning to end. But I was also like starting and stopping. I wasn't really being super consistent. And sometimes I was trying to force it and trying to be too like I really just want to get this book banged out. Listen, if it's worth putting out there, it's worth giving it your very best effort. So I just want to talk about that in terms of the why, because I know there's a lot of people who talk about why and they're like, well, I really want to get something out there. I just want to get it published and then I'll just kind of do something later, right? Well, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So one of the things I want to talk about is the framework called the Viper methodology. Now, I know this isn't going to be super relevant to all of you here because you're not necessarily business owners, but for those of you who are business owners, even if you're not a business owner, I still want you to consider this framework because the Viper methodology is a top-down approach. So just stay with me here for just a hot second because this will make sense here in a minute. When you're looking at the Viper methodology, the Viper is an acronym for Vision, Infrastructure, Process, Execution, and Reporting. And when you're looking at this, vision specifically is about where it is that you want to go. Okay. So when you're thinking about vision, your vision has two components to it. It has a personal vision and it has a business vision. So when you're thinking about your personal vision, now again, just hang in with me for just a second. When you're thinking about your personal vision, it's why, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go in life? So in other words, if you're publishing this book, and let's say it's wildly successful, okay? It's wildly successful or it's not wildly successful, who cares? But where it is that you want to go that has nothing to do with income generation whatsoever, right? That's your personal vision. And this also translates into the why you're writing this book to begin with. Because if you're not really clear in terms of the why, especially as you're writing, especially as you're directing this to your reader, which I will refer to as your avatar, as you're writing and you're not clear in terms of who the reader is, it's going to show up in your writing. It's going to manifest itself. It's going to seem like, who is this guy or who's this gal writing to anyway? Right? It's really important that you get very clear on your personal vision, regardless of what endeavor that you're undertaking. Because at the end of the day, like this is also important that you enroll the people around you, your spouses, your friends, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, the people around you that can help hold you accountable to saying, hey, look, I'm not going to be available to go out on Friday nights or Saturday nights anymore because I really want to spend that time instead of going out and drinking and getting all liquored up and then trying to recover all Saturday or all Sunday. I want to spend that time really dialing into myself, really spending that 3 or 4 hours Fridays and Saturday nights writing. I really want to get this book published in the next 6-8 months, right? You could do that for a period of time. You could do that for a period of 3 or 4 months and get something well written and then edited and then published and so forth and so on, right? But it's important that you enroll those people into your vision, right? That way you'd say, hey, listen, it's going to be hard for me to say no to you when you want to come over on Thursday night and watch football, but I'm not watching football on Thursday night. So don't come over, neighbor, with a pizza and a 6-pack because I don't want you here. I love you. I enjoy hanging out with you, but I don't want you here. That's important. That's why you want to do that. Okay. It was difficult to get into the event. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Stephanie. That's a stack. Yeah. Oh, a stack of books. Okay, very good. Yeah. Sorry you had difficulties getting in, Stephanie. We'll have to figure out what concerns were. You will get the replay though. If you missed anything, you'll get the replay sent to you in your email. Okay, just so you know. So that's your personal vision. Where is it you want to go? And then your business vision is how you're going to get there. And I want you to treat the publishing of your book as its own separate little business. So when you're thinking about this, you're thinking about thinking about it actually as a small business. You're going to think, cool, that's my personal vision. How am I going to get there? So I'm going to write a bunch of books. And this is why I'm saying, like, from this perspective, the danger in creating a business vision, like, all I want to do is write. I'm going to be a writer, and that's all I'm ever going to do. And I'm not going to spend any other time doing anything else. That's great, but that's a business vision. And when you create a business vision without ever giving any consideration to a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business, or you end up creating a life that exists to serve your career. And there's a lot of people who do that. And that's why I'm saying, like, especially for a younger, 20 and 30 somethings, they're wanting something different in their lives now. They don't want to just have an entire career, not like me, who is in the Gen X, the Gen Xers. We spent a lot of time focused on our careers and our businesses and everything else. And the younger generation is not so much like that, right? Especially, the millennials, Gen Z, even Gen Alpha, they don't want that. They want their work to be meaningful. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a really good swinging of the pendulum in that direction. So when you're thinking about the 3 C's of business vision, now stay plugged in with me, because this is going to be very relevant to your book. The 3 C's of business vision are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. So I'm going to say this in another way. When you're thinking of the 3 C's of your book vision, it's the same thing: the core purpose, the core values, and the client avatar. So when you're thinking about core purpose, right, what's the core purpose of the book? What are you writing the book for? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to educate? Are you trying to make aware? Are you trying to, are you just trying to have it be cathartic? Are you trying to get your story out there? Are you trying to make other people, educated so they don't run into the same problems that you did? Or is it just to entertain, right? What is it? What are you doing? Your core values are specifically core to you. And this is central to why, who you are as a human being, and why that, like, how would the world be worse off if you were not writing this book? You write this book, you spend the time writing your book, and here's my book, my Time Wealthy Advantage book back here. I wrote that specifically for married business owners who have kids at home that are just super swamped in their business. And I can write a book directly towards them because I'm a member of that avatar group. It's important for me to make sure that they are not so time weary, so they are spending time with their children, with one another, so they're not going to have failed marriages, right? Because the opposite of, like, what tears down love isn't hate. What tears down love is hurry. Because it's the antithesis of love. It's like, try to hurry up and love me, right? It doesn't work that way. Love takes time. And for me, that's why I wrote that book, so it can help people get more bandwidth in their life. So they're not always running at 105%. They can run at 90% and have that 10% left over for the things that truly matter. Ideally, it's more like 10% and 90% where they can pour into their loved ones and family. Does this making sense? All right. That's core purpose. That aligns with my core values in terms of who I am as a human being. And also my avatar is very, very clear. Married business owners. I tend to attract Christian business owners. Okay. Not necessarily only that, but I tend to. And then, married business owners who have kids at home who are swamped busy. Right? Sound like anybody you know? That could be you, right? It's probably why you're here, because I tend to attract that avatar. So this is why you want to define these things as you're going into this with your book vision. All right, so let's talk about the where. All of the wheres that you need to consider. And you're thinking, okay, like where, oh, where, all right? Like, where are you going to actually write? Now, hold on just a hot second. So when you write a book, just letting you know, when you write a couple of books with the title Time Wealthy, right? So I wrote The Time Wealthy Investor, I wrote The Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, and I wrote The Time Wealthy Advantage. So it probably is not that big of a stretch for people to say, oh, Mark, he is a time management expert. No, I am not. I am not a time management expert because nothing exists that is a time management expert. It's like I can't teach you to take 20 units of time, bury it, put it in a jar and bury it in your backyard. It doesn't work like that, right? But what good time management is good energy management. Good time management is good energy management. And that's where I want you to start thinking now is when is your best energy of the day? Go ahead and type in the chat. When is your best energy in the day? Right? So, Michelle, I suspect, Michelle, your best energy of the day is probably early in the morning, right? My best energy of the day is early in the morning. I love early things in the morning. Like the earlier, the better almost, right? It feels like I'm stealing from the day. Okay. So, when is your best energy of the day? And it's important that you figure this out. Look, even if you're like, well, my best energy in my day would be, early morning. Gabrielle, for you, it's early in the morning, right? Excellent. Christopher, late afternoon. That's interesting. Ruby, late night. Okay. Now, Ruby, is it late night because that's when your best energy is, or are you engaging in sleep procrastination? So just asking the question, you don't need to answer it publicly, but I'm just letting you know, like for me, I thought, oh, I come alive at night, but realistically, that was not my best energy of the day. It was always when I was best rested, always when I was best rested. So I'm seeing a lot of people in the morning, afternoon. I'm best in time management. Okay, very good. As long as you can manage your energy, the main thing about managing your time is about managing your energy, right? So why am I asking this? Because it's important that you recognize to write when you are engaging in the best energy of your day. Try to place yourself away from any distractions, because I'm telling you right now, it's amazing how much cleaning you suddenly want to get done when all of a sudden you sit down to start writing. Oh, the toilet needs cleaned. Okay, let me scrub the toilet. Oh, wow, what about the toilet in the other room, right? Hey, maybe I'll just go for a run, or maybe I'll just go skipping down the block. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I know, again, if I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up because I would find all sorts of other things to be doing rather than actually engaging in the writing. Does anybody resonate with that? So that's why I'm saying when you have your best energy of the day, you're much less likely to fend off other distractions. Okay. Yes, that happens to me, Selma. Listen, it happens all the time. Stephanie, I'm in a PhD program. There is no specific time. I'm in a PhD program too. What are you in? I'm in organizational psychology. So what is your, let me know what your PhD program is. So for you, like, there may not be a specific time, obviously, because you don't have course, like you might have to show up for certain courses at certain times. But for me, I will tell you, early morning, when I can do my work early morning, that's best for me. Okay. In education, good for you. Good for you. Well, best of luck to you in that. So I am early on in my journey. So I got one course down, about 700 more to go. So it'll be a while. All right. So now we're talking about where. Okay. And we talked about where you're going to write. Or we talked about, where your best energy is, where in the day, but where are you going to write? And it's important that you stage the environment. All right. Best energy of the day, this is where you have to stop and think about it when you're staging the environment. And it's a place just for writing. It's the place where you're only going to spend just for writing. You're not going to be, it's not a place you also pay bills. It's not any other thing. Like if you can, now I know in New York City where you have very small living spaces and other places where you have very small living spaces, that might be hard to do. Okay. I recognize that, but just if as much as you possibly can, have a space that is just for your writing. And that's incredibly important, because I was reading a book. I read a lot of books, and there was a book that was written by Robert Cialdini, who's written several books. He's a very, very smart man. I think he's got a PhD I think it's in economics. And he recognized that when he was sitting at home versus sitting in his college office, his writing style was different. And he noticed this, and he was like, when I actually can go out and I'm sitting in my office and I can see people walking back and forth, my writing style was different. And it was interesting because when I'm writing, I tend to isolate myself, but I would also tell you that my writing style is different when I'm out among other people. So it's important that you stage the environment. It's also, I would consider yourself, for those who are ADHD prone, you're like, well, I hop on Facebook and I go over here and then this and that. here's what I would say is, you know, I can tell you that being in a very, very busy area with no internet um, during and doing this during scheduled times is the best for me. And for some reason, the distractions, when there's a multitude of distractions, it's kind of like I have to force myself to focus. Like I have to force myself less. So for those of you who, again, the ADHD prone, you might say, well, I just get too distracted. Then you might want to find yourself where you can actually find an overload of distractions. And I get a ton of writing done in coffee shops, in busy areas. If I go to a library or I go to my conference room where there's nobody but me, it's very hard for me to concentrate. So figure out where you can stage your environment and use music with no lyrics. That does seem to help me for sure, and it helps a lot of other people, and it helps activate your alpha state which is what helps develop your creativity. Okay, so consider that in both the staging in the environment and also staging in your external, specifically what you can hear. So again, we're talking about where. We are going to get to some actual, publishing stuff. So just hang in there for just a little bit. But where where are you going to write? I want you to think also about where you're going to save it. Where are you going to save your files? And you might be thinking this is so silly and so basic. It is, until you think like, oh crap, my hard drive just crashed and I don't have, and my manuscript was on there and it was 98% done. And that's happened. So I'm just saying, it hasn't happened to me, but I will tell you, I have all sorts of thumb drives and I don't know where all my thumb drives went to, but all sorts of thumb drives and everything else. Where are my thumb drives? Oh, I must have moved them. But the thing is, I have thumb drives where I'm saving different copies of my books along the way. And I don't save them all the time, but I have a carbonite which backs up to the cloud. I have I call it a brick, which is basically an external hard drive, which is fireproof and everything else. I back them up to that once in a while, but I also have them on thumb drives that I keep in my safe. And the reason for that, you're like, man, are you concerned about losing this? Yeah, because I've spent so much time that if one of them fails, that I always have carbonite or I always have something else other than just my computer. My computer gets lost, it gets stolen, it just dies. These things happen. So I want to make sure that you think about how you're going to back those up and how often you're going to back them up. Here's the thing that I often do. So what I do is I don't like to work with conflicted copies, right? So you might save it to what's that called? OneDrive, like Microsoft. Well, good luck if you can actually find anything on OneDrive. I don't know who in the world developed OneDrive, but wow, that's horrible. But you might wind up with conflicted copies. What I will generally do is I will save my files so today's date is 11/11/2025. So I would probably save it as a copy when I'm done writing as 11/11/25, and I'll save that in two separate locations. So I'll have it on my computer and I'll have it on a thumb drive that I'll keep in my safe, right? And then it'll also be backed up to Carbonite. Then when I'm working on it again, and say I'm working on it again on 11/12 or 11/13, right? Then I will save it at the end of that day as 11/12 or 11/13, right? So worst case scenario, I'm winding up with a bunch of copies, but there's always a progression. And the reason why I do that is because sometimes I delete things and I'm like, oh crap, where did that go? And I'll find it on a previous copy. So I'm just letting you know, like, this is really, you might think, why are we going all through all of this? I'm just telling you because this really makes a difference when and you may have different ideas. And a lot of times some of this stuff will hit the cutting room floor, like the editing process. And it may be really good content, but it's just for another book. It's not for this book. Does that make sense? So this is, and that's why I have like 4 or 5 different books going at any one time. I don't work on 4 or 5 books, but I have right now, I'm working on Leader Boss. And it's about bosses who have struggles with being good leaders at their organizations. And that's the next book I'm writing. But I have another couple of books that I'm working on, which is about a bunch of other different topics, right? So I'm just saying, start thinking about how you're going to keep these conflicted copies and start thinking about the format in which you're going to back all these up and where you're actually going to save these copies. I want you to think about where you're going to capture and record your ideas. Okay. Where are you going to capture and record your ideas? I'm letting you know now that they're never going to come at a convenient time. They're always going to be when you're standing in the shower and you have nothing to write with, or when you're driving down the interstate on a busy road, or when you're riding on your lawnmower or you're walking on a treadmill. It's never convenient. And the reason for that is because when you're walking or washing dishes or doing a very routine, mundane task, running or whatever it is, your brain drifts off to what's called an alpha state. And your alpha state, your subconscious mind, is where your ideas come from. So I'm just letting you know, like, and this is where your creativity comes from. Okay. So walk with me right now. So, okay, I'm clapping my hands because I want to bring you guys back from any alpha state, because I might have said something like chicken and you're like, oh, chicken, I'm so hungry, right? So I'm bringing you back here real quick. I'm gonna walk you through how this works. Okay. Let's pretend you can keep your eyes open for this, but you can carry a recorder for sure, right? Many of them are on phones, things like that. I actually keep it on a notepad in my phone, different things like that. But I just want to show you how your alpha state works. Let's pretend you and I are walking down a gravel road. And as you're walking down this gravel road, you can feel the crunching of the gravel under your shoes or under your boots. And the gravel it's kind of coarse, so it's kind of hard to walk on. Your ankles are kind of weak because the gravel's so large. And each side of the road is covered in trees, very tall trees. You can't even see the sun through the trees because the trees are so tall. But as we continue to walk down the road, you can feel the crunching of the gravel under your shoes. You walk out and it's a clearing. Now off to your left, you see these rolling hills that kind of descend down into a valley. And then as you look up to your right, you see a big red barn on a hill. You walk off the main road where the large gravel is, and you walk and step onto a driveway which has finer gravel, and it's still crunching under your boots, but it's much easier to walk. You walk up the driveway and you go up to the barn, and you walk up to the door and you open the door. And you look in the barn and you smell and you see what's inside the barn. Now let's stop for a second. What color is the barn? What color is the barn? Write in the chat the color. What color is the barn? Okay, it's red. Okay. Michelle says red. Selma says red. Okay. All right. What color is the trim on the barn? Monica says brown. Okay. Red. So the trim is white, Michelle? White. Okay. Yes. All right. White. Okay. So now let me ask you something. When you walked up to the door and opened the barn door, did the door swing open, or did the barn door slide open for you? Slid open. Okay. Slid open. All right. Swing. Okay. Someone said swing. Someone said slide. Okay. Inside the barn, what did you smell? What did you smell inside the barn? Manure. Okay. Someone saying gray. I'm assuming gray trim. All right. Flowers. Okay. Okay. Hay. All right. Perfect. Here's the interesting thing, guys. This is exactly how your alpha state works, because your brain filled in the blanks. I didn't tell you. I'm pretty sure I did not mention the color of the barn. Sometimes I usually say it's a red barn. So I was a little careful in terms of what I said there. But realistically, I don't believe I said a color of the barn. Even if I did, a few of you said red. Some of you said brown. I think some of you said white of the color of the barn. No one's wrong, right? Could you actually feel the crunching of that under your boots, the gravel, right? When you could smell inside the barn, right? Some people said hay, some people said manure. You know what my answer would be? Grease. You know why? Because where I grew up, inside barns, we kept tractors and lawnmowers and things like that, things that smelled like grease and gasoline. So none of us is wrong. This is exactly how our alpha state works. And this is why when you can start creating a story and creating a narrative, this is how you take someone on a journey in your writing. Does this make sense? So you can take them down that path and you allow them to take themselves a little bit on a journey, right? So you can be descriptive. You can be Toll, Toll House chocolate cookies. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Cow milk cream, right? So the whole point is this is all based around your alpha state, right? So this is why it's important for you to put yourself in a place where you can capture your ideas when you're in your alpha state, when you're writing, because it's not always going to come up when you're writing. It's always going to come up in a very inconvenient spot. So this is exactly how you're going to come up with all sorts of ideas. They're never convenient. Have a voice recorder, use talk to text, put them in your phone, but make sure you delete these ideas from your phone once they're captured in your writing. That way you're not worried about, okay, once it's in there, you move it and then you can save it and then you make sure that it's captured. Okay. Generally I would always try to, put that in the context. So let's put the fries in the bag on that in terms of where. Okay. There's lots of different wheres that I want you to consider. Now let's talk about the writing, start writing and what to do along the way. So in terms of the writing, again, it's important to decide a pace and a rhythm in advance. That way you're not going to get super frustrated and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing my 700 words a day, right? Or whatever. But that's important to decide a pace and a rhythm because you're going to start to train yourself in terms of how much you're actually going to get done. And this is also important to decide your point before you start writing. This is critical because if you don't decide on that early on, like the pace and the rhythm, like I'm talking about the length of the chapters, you'll start to get a sense of how long the book is going to be, how often you're going to write, the metrics and word count. That's all stuff that's really, really important to track so you can see how much progress you're making. When I started out writing The Time Wealth, The Advantage, I knew that was going to be about a 300-page book because I've written 300-page books before. If you're going to sit down, you're just going to keep writing until you get tired, you can wind up with like a 900-page book that no one in the world's going to read. So, it winds up being a manifesto. And it's like, oh, what is this? What is this person writing about? Right? No, nothing that anybody's going to ever want to read. So again, you have to consider the length of the chapters in advance. I would start to think about that now, right? Decide the point before you actually start. Hey, what's the point of this chapter that I'm going to write about? And also decide on the language. Now, this is, let me just go back to that previous point here for just a second. Deciding on the point of the theme in your work is really, really important because it's easy to get lost in your own words. There's never too long of a book. There's only too boring. And I wrote a business book that was 300 pages and many people were like, wow, it reads like a story. You know why it reads like a story? Because I tell stories. I tell stories all throughout that so people will read it and not get bored throughout and not get lost and go, oh my gosh, I can't finish reading this. It's just too boring. So for me, I wrote it and I wrapped in, fable within there. There's a fictional couple in there who's having some trouble in their relationship, right? Kind of wove that all the way throughout the book. And then by the end, people are like, wow, I want to find out what happens to them. I got to keep reading. So again, that's really important to decide your point before you start, not just within the chapter, but within the entire book. So deciding on language. This is also really, really important that deciding on language is, are you going to write this as a very formal book or is it more informal language? Are you going to swear or are you going to be more polite? Now, me, I am a Marine. Trust and know I know how to swear. Okay. But I don't swear from stage generally, unless I'm like really trying to make some very specific point. I don't really swear in my books. Right now, I'm not super, I'd say it's more like PG-13, right? But I'm not, I just don't want to offend anybody. There's no point in doing that to just for the sake of writing it out. I feel like that's just mentally lazy for me. If you want to write it because that's the style of your writing and that's authentic to you, I'm not going to suggest that that's wrong. I just think for me, if you're writing a book that's like The Outsiders, that probably there's a lot of hard, heavy language in that, which is fine. I'm just saying like this, you got to decide on the language up front. The other one is, are you going to write basically, are you going to write phonetic? meaning like if is there a southern drawl in the character? Are you going to write that as a 3-year-old would say that? Right? Or are you going to write that as someone with a heavy Southern accent would say that, or someone with an Australian accent, or someone with a very heavy Russian accent, right? How are you going to write it? Decide on that language first out. And it's also important to decide on an accountability partner. This is where really having being in a writing group really does help. So you can start to share back and forth. And this is what some of the great writers did. I'm going to get is it J.K. Rowling? J.K. Rowling was a good friend of C.K. Lewis. And I think that I'm pretty sure that is true. So C.K. Lewis and J.K. Rowling, they were friends. And it was like, hey, you need to get writing. Like, where's your writing? Like, why am I outpacing you? Where is it at? So having that as an accountability partner really, really made a big difference. So you're saying, Christopher, it depends on the character I'm writing. Yes, of course it's going to depend on the character, but I would decide in advance, are you going to describe, hey, they have a very heavy Southern drawl, but you're going to write it somewhat different, right? So it's just important to decide that up front. The other thing I just want to make a quick point of here is the use of AI in writing. AI, if you want to be a good writer, sure, AI can be a good tool. Certainly to help you, like, hey, I've got an awkward sentence. Can I get this reworded? Or hey, I'm really struggling with this. But to have AI write entire sentences and paragraphs for you, I think that's when you're using it as a crutch. So if you ever hope to get better as a writer and engaging as a writer, just like I walked you guys through that story, many of you transported yourself to a road in the middle of nowhere, walking down a road, a gravel road with a barn on a hill. That's the type of transformation that you should, or that transportation that you should provide for your readers. And if you're relying on AI, that may not be able to do that for them. So just develop your skills as a writer by not relying too much on AI. So there is a statistic I literally just made up, but 99.4% of people will not finish a book they start. And I'm pretty sure that is a pretty accurate number, that it's probably even higher than that. So the reality is, again, this is a statistic I totally made up, but I'm just letting you know, this is why you got to have an accountability partner or a group or somewhere along the way that you're going to do this. I kept saying about the time wealthy advantage. I have an accountability group that I run. It's a mastermind. And I kept saying it, like, yep, working on the book. And finally I was like, look, I either need to do it or stop talking about it, one or the other. So that's why I'm saying, make sure that you have some accountability partners to help you get the thing written. Stay organized as best you can. Organize your thoughts through index cards, mapping software. Something that I like to use, if you've never used mind mapping software, it's actually pretty cool. For those of you who are of the Gen X generation, how used to take, this was something we did back in grammar school, where we would take index cards and like kind of write like these different little themes, and then put the supporting documentation and stuff like under each theme, right? And that's how you kind of organized your thoughts. I still actually do that with courses that I make. Actually, I did it with this course here, right? This training here is, what things do I want to talk about and how deep do I want to go in each one of these areas? So mind mapping software will actually do the best. Will do that for you. Mind Mup, MINDMUP.com. It's like $25 a year. And it's really great because you can create a master node, and then you can create all these little nodes off of it and just start to create them. It's a really, really great way to organize your thoughts and to move things around as you want. So you can literally drag and drop different thoughts around that along the way. So it's really, really cool. I really like it. And my suggestion is that you use that to help stay organized for any sort of projects that you want, whether you're developing a course, whether you're developing a presentation, or whether you're actually writing a book. So I like index cards, and I like whiteboards, but I also like mind mapping software, different things to do. Here's one thing that I want to reference in terms of actual writing. And this is called future pacing and callbacks. And Comedians do this really, really well, and really good authors do this well also. Future pacing is when you say, hey, coming up in this, Michelle says it's 98.7%. So the future pacing is like if I'm saying, hey, coming up, we're going to be talking about this, right? Or coming up in chapters such and such, that's when we'll address whatever. Or, let's say that you're writing fiction and you'd say, Tom, Tom was, apprehensive because he just felt like something bad was going to happen. Now, something bad is going to happen, but you want to make sure you actually do write about something bad that does happen, or at least reference it again in the future, because maybe something bad doesn't happen, but you need to close that loop for for the reader, right? Because it creates what's called the Objektina effect. They've got to be able to close that loop. So this is where you can't leave these open cliffhangers because people will hate you for it. So the future pacing, anytime that I do that, what I will do is you have to make sure that you deliver. So in other words, if I write this, if I say is discussed in chapter X, which is a callback, right? What I do to anything that I'm future pacing or anything where I'm doing a callback is I take the highlighting tool and I highlight it. That way in my final edit, I actually see and go to the highlighted section. It says, oh, Tom thought that something bad was going to happen. And I go, did I land the plane on that? Did I put the fries in the bag and make sure that I addressed the bad thing that Tom thought was going to happen? Or did I address that sales promise that I made in chapter 14 like I said I would, right? So you got to make sure that or if you do a callback is as discussed in chapter 5 or whatever, right? Did you actually discuss that thing in chapter 5 and not chapter 7? Because sometimes chapter numbers will move around, right? It's just the nature of things. So what I'll do is I'll always highlight them, right? And then I go back and check them. And as I'm doing the final edit, going through the final edits, I will take and remove those highlights. So that's really, really important to making sure that I'm writing using future pacing and callbacks. So citations and resources. So where's my PhD person? Right now, I am like waist deep in APA 7 citations. And listen, yes, it's important if you're writing a clinical type work to make sure that your citations follow a certain format. Do it the best you can. I like to write in the text of the book, which is basically called an inline citation. So I just like to reference the books. If you're going to put a resources section or a citation section at the end, do it and try to follow the style as best you can. I'm telling you, there's citation generators out there, which are all free. Many of them are free, and you can just copy and paste it and put it in there. It's just an easy way to do it. So I would just say, make sure if you are going to put in citations, especially for business type books, make sure that you have an entire section devoted just for that. If you are going to be writing about different things, give the authors their due, right? You're an author. You don't want people stealing from you. So make sure you're giving your readers a fair shake in terms of what's yours and what's not. Use of writer's notes. Writer's notes is something where you actually put a note inside the writing itself, which is going to be deleted later on. So when you're writing something, you'd say, I want to make sure that Tom and Linda figure out their marketing strategy by the end of this, right? And if I haven't done that, then that's what the purpose of the writer's note is. So the writer's note is really meant to delete along the way, and that's just something that I use. That's just the tool that I use. And then I've mentioned this before. Writing as an actual craft. I've talked about this a little bit, but beyond the scope of this session, but educate yourself on composition. I like authors like Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. She is absolutely hilarious, by the way. Stephen King on writing, and then On Writing Well by William Zinsser. Just so you know, the Stephen King book is not like a scary book. It's not a scary horror, writing sort of thing. It's actually just about him on writing. He's actually hilarious. He keeps referring to this one guy who was his teacher. He referred to him as old cue ball. But Anne Lamott is hilarious. And she wrote Bird by Bird, which was about writing. and there's just different things. I think these are three great areas. I've read the two of these, Anne Lamont's and Stephen King's. I've not read On Writing Well by William Zinsser, but a good friend of mine who is my who has edited my book before, and really helped me with my writing style. She suggested On Writing Well. It's in my stack of shame. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So, I'll eventually get there. But I just want to make sure that you guys know these are three really, really good resources for you to develop your composition style and writing prowess. All right, so let's talk about the most important thing. This is the most important thing, is promotion. Here's the problem. When I wrote my book, The Time Wealthy Investor, I wrote it, and it is a good book. It is a very good book. And I had a lot of people, we all have a stacks of shame. We do, right? We do. But it's just one of those things you just got to make sure you get through them. Set aside time to make sure you're reading. So in terms of promotion, I just want to tell you, don't wait until the book is published before you start promoting. I have already started promoting my next book called Leader Boss, and I don't even know when it's going to be done. So the thing about that is, what I will do is I will get snippets of the book released. So I put a photo of me up on social media. I'll release a section of it, like a paragraph or two, right? Get book buyers gathered in Facebook groups, like I'm starting to say, hey, where are my book buyers? Who are the people who are book readers? And I start to create them in a separate group where they can start to help plug and promote my book, especially if anybody has bought my books in the past. Generally, I have not saying that everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're the best writer ever. But I've never had any bad feedback around my books. Like never, like people like, and I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. I'm saying it because I put a lot of darn time into it, and I get feedback along the way from what's called a beta reader. So the thing is, these promotion, and your beta readers will also help you promote. Here's one of the things that I did, and like, again, you have to say this for from this perspective, is like, when you get beta readers, now a beta reader is someone who's like a test reader, and they will tell you along the way, like, oh, I like this. I like where you're going with this thread, or, this character is not developed well enough, or I am so confused because you used he and he in the same sentence, and I have no idea which he you're talking about, right? That's really helpful. But these are also the people that can help you with promotion, because if they've been helping you with beta reading, right? Because these are people who love to read and love to help you out. And you look at this and say, okay, cool, right? Hey, can do you know anybody who might be interested in helping, maybe want to buy this book, right? And they can post social media. They can help you promote it in other ways. I'm just saying, like, you cannot wait till the book is written before you actually start writing the book. So this is really, really important. So when you're promoting the book, the other thing is too, one of the things I do, and I do this with a launch, is I'll actually create like a launch group. So when I do launch the book, I get them to, they'll buy it, or I'll get them copies for free. And they're out there going, hey, this is me with Mark's book, right? And I post it on social media, and there's lots of different ways, way beyond the scope of this right now to talk about promotion, because promotion is a whole other thing. And I'm just letting you know, this is what this will look like down that path. So let's talk about publishing. I just want to talk a couple of things around the actual publishing process, working with an agent versus self-publishing. And there's also a hybrid model of, kind of half working with an agent, kind of half self-publishing. That's a hybrid model. The thing, with an agent, this is where you're going to find a publisher. This is where you're going to work with an agent. The agent will find a publisher, and this is where you are going to get published that way. I have looked at that several times, fairly hard. And for me, it always benefited me to self-publish. Why is that? Because I have a pretty established tribe. I have a pretty established presence, not just on social media, but in the business community, about what it is that I write about. I write about business systems. I write about business psychology. I write about business leadership. I write about business management, lead generation, sales, operations, accounting. It's all very business, right? But I write it in such a way where my avatar, my, busy business owners are very open to reading it. Okay. So me, because I have a tribe already established, self-publishing works out pretty well for me. Your mileage may vary. So it's just letting you know that if you work with an agent, they tend to do everything, but you do what I'm just letting you know, you give up some control there, right? And whatever you don't pay for in dollars, you give up in control. that make sense? So if you're not paying for marketing, you're giving up control of your book. So I'm just saying, like, you have some flexibility, and I like that flexibility when I'm working with when I actually self-publish, because I have that. You have to consider book cover design. Book cover design, I usually don't start until the book is actually pretty close to being done. I've done it earlier on, but the way that I will do this is that I will get, you can find someone on Fiverr. I have a graphic designer who actually helps me with all of my books. And it might cost a couple $100 for the book cover design. I say, hey, give me 3 designs. And she will ask, well, what's the book about? And I kind of say what the book is about. And she will come back with 3 or 4 different things. I kind of pick the 3 or 4 that I like. And then guess what I do? I don't pick the one. I test it in the market. So I would message you on social media through Messenger, say, hey, can I ask you for an opinion? You're like, sure. And I'm like, hey, do you like A or do you like B? And they're like, oh, like, this is for a book I'm writing. Do you like A or do you like B? They're like, oh, I really like A. Cool. Right. Do you like A or do you like C? And they're like, oh, out of the 2, I really like C. I'm like, cool. Do you like C or D? Right. And they're like, I really like C still. Okay, cool. So now I've got this bracket. And that's exactly what I do for cover design. And that's also what I do for titles and subtitles. So a title, especially for a business book, the title is like, okay, so for example, the title is The Time Wealthy Advantage. Okay. The subtitle is A Strategic Approach to Managing Your Life and Business. The subtitle is The Brand Promise. That's the promise. A strategic approach to building the life and business you want. That's the promise, right? So you got the title and the subtitle. The title should grab you. It should be like, I wonder what that book's about, right? And then the subtitle explains what the brand promise is. So if you're writing a business book, you have to think about those 2 elements. If you're writing in different types of books, you want kind of you still want to test the title against your avatar. And again, you should do it against your avatar. Make sure it's an avatar like who's buying the book. If you're writing a children's book, it probably needs to grab whoever the buyer is. Probably not 5-year-olds, because they're not buying books. Who's buying books for 5-year-olds? It's not 5-year-olds, it's parents, right? So you want to make sure that it's resonating most with the avatar who's most likely to buy the book. So you'll test the title. Do you like A? Do you like B? Cool. You like B? Cool. Do you like B or do you like C? Right? Cool. You still like B? All right, great. Do you like B or do you like D? Cool. You like B? All right, great. B's the winner, right? Then you test that against 30 or 40 people who are in that avatar group, and you do the same thing with a subtitle. All right. All right. So the Time Wealthy Advantage, like I already kind of mentioned this. So that was actually the 2 different iterations that I had for the subtitle: a strategic owner's 5-step strategic blueprint to freedom versus a business owner's strategic blueprint to freedom. Right. So I ended up changing all of that and then moved on. All right. So let's talk about publishing. A couple things here, and this is actually in the paid course. We're almost done here, so just hang in there for a few minutes. When I self-publish, I actually publish through Amazon and KDP. If you are interested in self-publishing, this is in my paid course. Okay. So it walks you through all 3 pages of what's on the Amazon platform and KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. It walks you through all the granular details around that. And also how to get what's called an ISBN. If you look on the back of any book, there's that barcode and the ISBN number. It's the International Standard Book Number. So that's the ISBN. So you can get that from Bowker, and you can buy, like, it's such a racket. You can buy like one for like $120 or like 5 for like $200. It's crazy. So anyway, that you can get your ISBN from Amazon, but then you kind of give up some rights. I prefer to buy my own ISBN, so I actually have full publishing rights to my book, and I can publish it anywhere I want, not just on Amazon. So I think it's worth it, honestly, to get your own ISBN. Publishing, the other publishing, and this is where I also talk about Audible. This is also in the paid course. You can how to actually record it on Audible. So if you're going to get on Audible, I'm just letting you know you also have to publish it as an ebook. So if you're going to narrate your own book, which is exhausting, by the way, but if you are going to narrate your own book, you have to have an ebook before you actually upload to the Audible. I didn't know that. So because last time I did it on ebook, I did the print book, the ebook, and then I don't think I did the ebook right away though. No, I did actually. I do that right away. So anyway, long story short, they use the formatting in the ebook to put the chapters together for your Audible. And I didn't know that. So you have to make sure that you put the ebook out before you put the Audible out. All right. I'm just letting you know, Audible does take about 20 days to release after they have the files. So it's a while. So you're not going to release the book itself. That's what I'm searching for. How do you self-publish? Yes. So what I'm saying about self-publishing is you can do this through Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP. I think it's kdp.com, right? So it's or just type in Kindle Direct Publishing and it'll take you straight there. You'll create an account and that's where you go. But if you, like I'm saying, if you'd like to save a little bit of time, it'll cost you a few bucks, but that's on the paid course that I have here. I'm going to show you in a minute. Or you can just figure it out. If you're kind of a figure it out kind of person, you can go through that through kdp.com. But the one other thing is about revisions. Oh, let me just make this point is that you can, Audible takes like 20 days to release the audio after you've done the file. So if you plan on releasing your physical copy, your ebook, and the Audible all on the same day, that won't happen because that's disconnected. So I'm just letting you know that it takes a while. You can do revisions to published books that are already done. But the problem is, just keep in mind that Amazon does do some pre-printing of some books in advance. So it may take they have to sell off that stock before they actually do the revision. So what happened in one of my books, The Time Wealthy Advantage, there was a misspelling somewhere. I don't even remember where it was, but it was like chapter like 18 or something. And there was a misspelled word. I was like, gosh, dang it. Right. So I went back in, changed it, but I ended up getting like 20 more books before that was actually corrected. So it took a while for it to work through. That's because they do some pre-printing. So I just want to make sure you understand about revisions. You can do revisions, which is great, but the problem is you just got to make sure that you understand, make sure that they're pretty small revisions after you click that publish button. And then I want you to understand the limitations of editors. And this is the last point I'm going to make, and I'm going to show you just a couple of resources that you can use, and then we'll be done. But the limitations of editors, editors are not necessarily there's certain limitations. Like some of them are going to be focused specifically on grammar and punctuation and things like that. And some of the other ones are going to be more about like in terms of character development and things like that. There's just different limitations that editors have. So you really have to pay attention. It's really helpful to have multiple aspects of people looking at it, from beta readers to editors and different things, because sometimes you may be through a thread and you think that you're totally fine and you wrote it in your head, but it's nowhere in the manuscript, right? There's plenty of times that I've done that where I've written things and I thought for sure in my mind that I had written it down, but it's nowhere in the book. So this is why you have to start to think about recognizing limitations for, they're good about grammar and punctuation and things like that. But, in terms of following a thread or following, character development or things along those lines, there are limitations behind that. So they will catch a lot of things, but they won't catch everything. They won't catch discontinuity. They won't catch future pacing, callbacks. This is why beta readers are so important. If you guys are interested, and I'm just letting you know, this group is around business owners specifically. Let me come back to your question, April. This is the group called the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you are, again, this is around business people. So this isn't a specific writing group. This is why I labeled this the writing for business owners. So if you would like to come and be a part of this group, you're more than welcome. Michelle just put the link in there. Just don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk, you're not welcome. So if you know you're a jerk, don't come. Okay. Let me answer your question, April. Does self-publishing mean doing everything on your own? Marketing, editing? Yes, it does. So you can hire other people to market your book, right? But you're the captain of the ship. But the nice thing is, you can buy author's copies at cost, right? So like this book costs me, I don't know exact dollar amount, but it's like $5 a copy, right? And I can sell it for more, right? But the thing is, I got to handle all the fulfillment, right? So it's not all it's cracked up to be. You might be thinking, oh, wow, if you sell it for $30, you make $25. I'm like, yeah, but I got to mail it, right? I've still got it. And then I got to go to the post office. I got to box it up. I got to send it. There's a lot to it, right? So I'm just letting you know, if you're handling the fulfillment, now the nice thing is about self-publishing is it does upload it directly to Amazon. So you may not necessarily have to do the fulfillment, but you do have to do your own marketing. So it's about you driving people to, to the page on Amazon. Now, the thing is about Amazon that I don't like, again, I'm talking about from a business perspective, is that I don't know who's buying it. I have no clue. I only get a raw number at the end of the month of people who bought my book. So that's why on Amazon it's listed for like $35, and on my site I list it for like $27, and I throw in a 30-minute coaching session. Why do I do that? Because I can sign the book, give it more value. I can, get it, I can include a 30-minute coaching session so I know who's actually buying it. But I also have an ability to reach back out to that person in the future if I write another book, right? So I'm not starting all over again. Okay. So just there is limitations around. So I don't mind doing the fulfillment for that purpose because I get to know who is actually buying the book. So there's a reason for that. Otherwise, you can allow Amazon to do all the fulfillment. You just don't know who's buying it. All right. So there's that. So you can join us on Facebook. If you like events like this, especially, I do a lot of business stuff, you're welcome to join me on Eventbrite. So go to Eventbrite specifically and follow Strategic Boardroom. And then Eventbrite will let you know anytime we post another couple of any sessions coming up. Your question, Christopher, how do you get noticed by publishers and editors? Should I focus on developing a social media presence or something else? So if you're wanting to you're not going to get noticed by a publisher, right? It just doesn't happen. This is why you need an agent. The agents, that's their job. So really you should be going out and seeking agents and working with them, because the agent's job is to work with the publishers, and they will have, and the publishers have the editors and everything else. So I'm just letting you know, like, there's no getting noticed unless you're like literally like pumping out 1,000 books a year. That even then, like, you're putting out garbage, then no one's going to care. So I'm just saying, like, your better bet is to not work so hard and find an editor, or I'm sorry, find an agent, a literary, and like a publishing agent, and they will help you with all that stuff. So that's my suggestion. That is a lot of time to market. I'm not sure what your question is, Stephanie. Could you word that differently? So I'm gonna just make this quick while Stephanie's getting that clear. This is the writing and publishing introductory course, and then there is a free course, and then so this is the introductory course, which talks about different aspects of different things. Let me just go ahead and I'm going to stop the share here really quick. So I'm going to show you. Let me kill that. Because what I'm going to show you is what the inside of the actual course looks like. So give me just 1 second so I can move that over to another page, and you guys will be able to see what it is that I'm looking at. So if you go to, let's see right there. All right. And let me share again. And so stop sharing, and I'm going to share. Okay, so this is the inside of the course, of the actual course. I'm going to show you the advanced writing course, but basically the advanced writing course also includes the paid course, right? So the introductory course also includes the paid course. So in the beginning, this says advanced, but again, it's just, so the introduction is like, how to write, how this course all works, why writing a book. We actually talked a little bit about this during this session. This is kind of a lot of, the things that we already talked about in this session, but it breaks it down into a little bit more tangible bites. There's other things in there which are going to be helpful for you. Different things about promotion, actual more granular things around promotion, and the publishing basics. So the free session, Michelle just posted a link there, and I'm going to show you actually how to get logged in. I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. But this is pretty much where it ends. And there's a bonus introductory webinar that I did, which is basically just this, and it's posted again. If you're interested in the advanced course, this is where it begins here. This is about advanced promotion, getting more granular about and getting clear on who you're sending it to. And this is the book promotion template and different things that you can do around promoting your book and getting it into the hands of people. Now, again, I'm talking about it specifically from the purpose of doing your own publishing, so around self-publishing. So if you plan on working with an agent, I would not recommend the course because it doesn't really give you, it's not going to give you what you want. So this is really more about self-publishing. These are advanced promotional tactics, getting granular with different ideas that you can use for a book when it comes to different lead generation. And especially, it's really nice if you're a business owner that you can use that book to help drive your credibility. And that's really why I like it. It works both ways. Like I started making a lot more money when I was using the book as a tool to attract people and not so much just trying to make money from it. So I'm just saying it's a really good credibility thing for you. Social media promotion, about creating hooks, copy, offers, and promoting them on Meta. Delivery ideas, different things that you can do for package delivery. That's really, really fun, and just different things that I've had when people sent me books. Getting your ISBN. This is actually more. Bowker does a great job, but it's really not super like easy to navigate. So I showed you how to get your ISBN, how to publish on KDP. There's three different pages on KDP, and this is why this video itself is only about 40 minutes long, because there's a lot of different things on there that you have to pay attention to. How to format your ebook so you can actually have it on Kindle, and because there is specific formatting that you have to do. It's not super hard. It's just you don't know unless you've seen what to expect. And then uploading your ebook, how to actually upload your ebook to KDP. That only takes a couple minutes. And then if you are going to narrate your book, if you are going to create your book on Audible, what to actually do. And I use, what's that called? It is Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is really good, but my goodness, it is a lot. So there's all sorts of different granular things that you have to know about narrating up front, and then also about narrating on Audition, and how to carve that up and make it nice and cozy for people to actually listen to. And also so this is all sound engineering stuff that I'm talking about. It's not hard. It's just stuff that you wouldn't know unless you've been through it. And then the last piece, I guess I've got two videos of the same thing there. There's one other video that we're getting ready that's still being uploaded. So there's one other video that I have to do, and then that'll be complete. So it should be anytime. This course literally just got completed. So there's a beta price, which means like it's a beginning price of $17. That's the paid course. That's Michelle just put that up there. If you click on that, you can go in there, enter your information. If you hate it, you go in there and they're like, hey, this isn't even worth the money. I'm going to give you your money back. I have no intention of doing it. I just wanted to kind of, get some of my money back from all of the editing and time that I put into that. But here's the thing. I just want to show you really quick on how to find this again, because a lot of times what people do is they'll buy these things and like, oh my gosh, how in the world do I even find this again? So I'm going to show you how to do that. And if you want access to other things, I'm just going to show you this real quick, and then we're going to be done. So thanks for sticking around, guys. This is, if you go to strategicboardroom.com and you go up here to courses and logins right up here. This is events, by the way. If you go to events, you'll see all the different events that I have coming up. So there's that. But if you go to courses and logins up here on the right, let me go back to the main page so you see where I'm talking about. Up here on the right-hand side, courses and logins. If you go up there and you scroll down, this is where you would access anything that you have purchased, right? So if you actually want access to all the courses, the Life and Business Blueprint, these are all the courses, you can actually purchase it over here and then sign in the blue bar. So you're signing in on the middle blue bar there. So Money and Finance Advanced Course. So if you buy the Advanced Writing and Publishing course, you click the blue bar. If you go to the free one, you come down here and you click the blue bar, free intro course, right? So you're always looking for the blue bar when you're logging in. So you just, again, once you buy it, or when you, whatever you do, if you choose the free one or the paid one, you're looking for that blue bar so you can sign in later on. All right. That is all I have, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. I've got a couple things. Do you have a website? Where do you market all your books? Is it worth to have one, or should you simply use social media? Brian, what I would do, and I'm going to answer this question. Let's say you have a book and you're calling it, Joey's Sandwich Shop, right? And that's the name of the book. I would, as much as you possibly could, try to find a URL, or create a URL. It's like Joey's Sandwiches or Joey's Sandwich Shop or something like that, which then could, or Joey's Sandwich Book, something along those lines, which is very similar. And you can direct marketing, directly off that page. So that would be a way to do it, but I would make it specifically as a landing page. So, but no other navigation. They either come on to buy or they leave, right? There's only one way to exit. Okay. So that's what I would do for that. You could do it on social media where you create another page, right, or a group around this, but I'm letting you know there's no free lunch when it comes to that. You are going to pay for promotion. So if you don't know what you're doing, You need someone, like, this is stuff I help with, but I'm just saying you need someone who knows how to market that stuff. Okay. So it's really, really good question. So I'm glad that you asked that question. Do you have a domain name for each book? Yes. I don't have one for every single book because my 4 guides actually get sold as a bundle, because that was what I wrote them for, right? I wrote those 4 guides as a bundle to sell with the Time Wealthy Advantage. So I don't have them for those. I do have a Time Wealthy Advantage URL. I'm not using it right now. I just own the URL. Okay. So, or I think I've also got Time Dash Wealthy and other iterations of that, but I'm not using it right now. I just own the URL. So for me, I drive it through Strategic Boardroom, and that's generally where I'm sending that to. So, that's a very popular for authors to go in and create a URL that's the title of their book, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So we are blown away that you blessed us with so much. Oh, it's very much my pleasure, Stephanie, and best of luck in your PhD studies. Thank you so much for the great information. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, excellent. All right, so hopefully I answered all your questions. I will see you guys in the emails. Remember, you're going to be getting a link to the replay, and then we'll send you some of these links as well if you're interested. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Take good care.